beautiful morning for a little road trip. And what an exciting road trip it is. Not a long road trip, only going about 2.5 hours, but I am currently on my way to Miller's Motorsports because I'm going to get to check out in person a new Wolverine Rmax. Hoping to be able to check out one of the 4-seaters. However, Miller's only has the 2-seaters, but I'm not going to complain. From the videos I've already seen, I am really liking it, so I'll do my best to give it a fair judgment, but I'm already kind of smitten by it, so no guarantees. Alright guys, here she is, the new Rmax 1000. Now we actually have a base model here we're going to get to look at. They're going to pull it down around back so we can take a closer look, get that shiny new paint out in the sun to take a good look at and not be distracted. Boy guys, I gotta say, she sounds mean. So here she is, the new Wolverine Rmax 1000. Now unlike everyone else that has all the fancy XCRs and limited, this here is a plain Jane base. This is going to be the cheapest version you can buy. They're basically the same machine, difference in tires, difference in a few other features, but all in all the machine itself the same, the power plant's the same. So first off here, looking at looks, I am absolutely in love with the looks of these guys. They're not too far stretched from the current Wolverines that you can't tell it's a Wolverine, but they are improved. You still kind of have the same hood scoop deal you have with the current Wolverines, but you have a lot more defined detail in the front. Of course, we got the headlights here. You got your main headlights here mounted down low. I was a little skeptical about this at first when I first saw these because of the mud and stuff flinging. The lower your headlights are, quicker they're gonna get dirty. But they are set back in here enough. You get pretty good protection here with your bumper. I think you'll be all right. And when you're in the mud, you're in the mud. Your headlights are getting muddy anyway. And then the accent lighting. I think I would have rather seen the main headlights up here with the accent lights down here. Kind of switch those around. But that's just a minor thing. Now, of course, being a base model, this does not come installed with a winch. But that's no big deal because if this is what you're going at to get the cheapest entry level of these new Rmaxes you can get, you're probably not going to want a big fancy Warn winch that you got to pay top dollar for anyway. So you'll be able to outfit that with your own winch, and it looks like it still comes set up here nice. You got your bolt holes and everything that you should be able to pretty much mount any winch you want to in here without any problems. And right away guys, as other channels have mentioned, these A-arms on this guy are beefy. These uppers are fully boxed, and this is thick steel here. Of course, you already have all your mounting points for the Yamaha skid plates and stuff that you can get, so those will just bolt right on, simple as can be. Let's take a look at these tie rods in here because they look beefy. Look at that. Look how thick these tie rod ends are. You can tell when Yamaha designed this, they completely over-engineered it to be tough and to stand up to what you can put at it. These are probably some of the beefiest stock tie rods and tie rod ends I've seen on a stock machine. And speaking of that, I know it's kind of hard to see here in the light. Let me get over here to the other side. See if we got any better light. A little bit better. Wolverines, you know, the X4s, the X2s had a bad reputation when they first came out for bending these shock mounts. But guys, these are so much more beefier. Even the metal itself is thick. And I don't think we're going to have to worry about bending these puppies. That's for sure. Of course, they got the Fox shocks here with the simple 3-knob adjustment. You know, pretty much your typical shock that you see on all the OEMs. You got 3 settings, firm, medium, and soft. And of course we got dual rate springs on here so you can fine tune them. Front differential on this guy is looking mighty beefy. Again here, looking at the rear suspension, we got the same Fox shocks as on the front, same adjustability. They're both running dual rate springs on them. Again here you can see how beefy these box lower A-arms are, and these beefy tubes here on the uppers are also outstanding. I have to say, this rear differential, that is one beefy unit. Look at even the mounting points here. That is thick. That is probably overbuilt, but she's built to maintain and withstand the power you're going to be putting down with this beast. Of course, you've got disc brakes on all 4 corners. So I gotta say, you're probably gonna have that typical rotor squeal that all Yamahas I've ever owned have, that have 4-wheel disc brakes. It happens, you get dirt in there, you get grime in there, you're going down the track, you're just gonna hear that that Yamahas have. But the good thing to that is you will have excellent stopping power. And one thing that I was surprised to find out is these little shark fins here in the hood, they actually are functional. I don't know how the light is right now for you guys to see if my shadow's in the way. There's actually holes in there that go clear down the hood to help expel the heat. Let's go ahead and we're gonna pop this hood off here. Very, very similar to the current Wolverines in here. You have the same kind of air filter set up here, CVT intake. It does look like this is a touch bigger, but again, your main filter will be under here. Your battery's tucked in away, nice and soundly. Your overflow for your radiator is up here now. It'll be a lot nicer to fill than trying to come in here like it is on the older generations and try to pour in a little tube that's right here. It's up there nice out of the way. Radiator cap behind this little flap here. And one thing I will point out too, that I know it made a lot of people nervous with the current Wolverines, is your brake reservoir. It actually has its own protection plate now. Yes, it's just plastic. Yes, stick smacking that could probably still break it, but at least you have some protection over this now, unlike the current generation where it's just out there for all of God's creation to smack and try to break, so you lose your brakes. Of course, being a 2-seater, you do have a dump bed here. I'd like to have seen it dump a little bit more. Thinking of the old Rhino I just did a review on, it tilted back a little bit farther. But again, most guys are going to be getting this for the fun factor anyway, for a trail buggy. Probably not going to use a dump bed a whole lot other than just throwing a cooler in, 10 in. You can see here as well, Yamaha's already got lots of provisions here for their accessories. I'm sure will be coming out, and ones that are already out for seamless integration into the bed, which is really, really super nice. One thing I did want to check out here, this is still a dry sump system, so it's still similar to 850s. Here's your main oil jug where it fills. You got your CVT exhaust here, which helps blow across not only your engine exhaust to keep it cool, but you got this little offshoot tube here that will actually blow across your engine, help to keep it cool. And one thing I was curious about and was hoping to get a chance to see a 4-seater was if you still had to fill the sump like on the 850 models. You do. So what that means is you're probably still going to have to take off them rear cup holders as you have to in a current X4 in order to do your oil changes. Kind of a pain, especially with them screw types. So maybe they've upgraded and got some kind of better fasteners, but looks like the 4-seater is probably going to have something similar where you're going to have to remove that whole rear section of 4 cup holders in order to get access to it. Just like your current generation Wolverines, Yamaha stuck with the single latch for the tailgate, just like a truck would have, which is nice. Hopefully it'll hold up a little better than the current generations. I know mine's already finicky and I have to take and bang the one side as I pull to get it to open. But, I mean, it's a trade-off. You get what you get. I'm still kind of partial to the good old Rhino. Latch here, it's easy. You not only know it latches well, but there's really not much can go wrong with it. It's because it's simple. But it is nice, especially if your hands are full, to be able to come up here, just hit one lever, and you're down. Well, let's say we crawl under this beast. Let's take a look at the skid plate. I know the current generation Wolverines are steel. It's no different here for this. These are all welded steel skid plates, so she should hold up to pretty good abuse. It's not the thickest. It's probably the same as what's on the current generations, but having this from the factory is super nice. You can now see from this angle, these are slanted upwards to give you a little more clearance. And I don't know if I forgot to mention, you guys know this already, though, the front A-arms are arched. I would have loved to have rear arched A-arms, because in my mind it kind of defeats the purpose to having front arched A-arms if you don't have arched on the back. Because sure, that gives you a lot of extra ground clearance for going over stuff there, but what happens when you get to the back? If you clear it in the front without having the arched A-arms in the back, you're going to smack it. But hopefully aftermarket companies, I'm sure, are going to jump on this, and they're going to make some arched rears as well. Let's take a look at some more maintenance points while we're under here. Our oil filter, here's the passenger side tire. You come in here, you can see this hole right here. Right up in there is your oil filter. So you can get your hand up in there to get that. And unlike the current generation Wolverines, where you have to take this whole panel off and do a bunch of other stuff to just change your oil filter, you can do this without having to tear in the machine at all. I certainly hope and fingers crossed that the X4 will have an exact identical setup to this. We'll have to just wait and see, because again, it's stretched a little bit farther. We'll have rear doors here, probably some more body work. It'll have footwells in there, but let's hope it's as easy with the Rmax 4 as it is here with the Rmax 2. Oh, I'm gonna crawl in under here and see if we can find our oil drain bolt. There it is, right there, simple. So here is your hole for getting your oil filter, and there is your oil drain bolt. So it's got a nice big opening here that's not going to catch the oil and send it running everywhere. Should be easy enough to get to. And even has a slot here, look at that, to allow the mud and debris and stuff to drain away from your parking brake. So it's kind of exposed there, but like I said, it is going to allow you and allow the mud and water to drain and not collect down in there and cause your parking brake to get all plugged up and fail. Hopefully this won't need as adjustment as often as the current generations. Oh, here's your intake tube drain right here. Looks like they may have actually beefed up this retainer clip a little bit. I know on the current generations these things would tend to fall off and a lot of guys would just go to regular hose clamp. This looks a lot beefier and a lot more secure than the current generation. So that is an awesome little detail that Yamaha did. I'm sure they probably saw all the posts about people complaining about these falling off and then getting water in their intake tube. So they upgraded just to a little bit beefier hose clamp on this guy, which is awesome. Good job, Yamaha. Now that you get a close up here of those doors, you can really see how they were able to improve and get rid of that latch. On the current generation Wolverines, the X4 and X2, your front door would have actually ended here and came up and then went, and that's why you had that latch way up here. Basically all they did was extend the door on back here to behind your seat, and so now this latch is moved back here, and that completely eliminates that jutting out piece of the current generation where you have that right there to smack your hip. Another nice thing about this interior as well is it does seem that they have improved the legroom quite a bit over the current model Wolverines. It just seems like I got a little more room in here. Of course, you still have a sliding driver's seat, and then she's got some pretty good range of movement here up and back. And of course, it's going to be hard for me to do while holding the camera, is you got the tilt steering wheel. I do love the fact that they removed the main gauge cluster from over here and set it here right in front of you, which is super nice. And one of the main reasons I was super excited to see one of these base models and not just look at the XTR or the Limited is because these base models do not come with the integrated Adventure Pro. So I was curious as to what Yamaha did if you didn't have a big screen here. They just pretty much put a blank panel in here that says Yamaha. Easy enough. It looks like though this is easily to pop. This probably I'm sure pops off, and you can buy the Adventure Pro later on as an accessory. Of course, your base model here now, it does not have your 3 mode, your sport, your trail, or your crawl settings. So that's one thing you will give up going with the base mode. You will not get that. That only comes on the XTR and the limited editions. You still have all your blank slots here for switches, just like the higher end models. You do still get your 12-volt plug here, which is nice to have. And although the switches on the base model here are not backlit, they are still plainly marked a lot better than the current generations. They're not just a black plastic molded in, they're actually white lettered so you can see it, and hopefully that'll help eliminate the go to turn the headlights on and accidentally switch it into 4-wheel drive that you have with the current Wolverines. One thing I am super impressed with is the fact that Yamaha added all these nice soft touch materials to everything. You got the nice little soft pad here where your knees are going to rub and hit, which is perfectly placed. The steering wheel, they thickened a little bit. It's still nice and soft, which is very comfy to hold on to. It feels good in your hand. It feels like a man wheel. Of course, you have your parking brake here, which again, super soft touch with satisfying click and feel to. And you have your gated shifter. Now they did add a little more spring tension to this, so it feels really good going into gear. It snaps into gear. There's no mistaking what gear you're in when using this guy, and that is super nice. And little cubby holes here. Again, this is where your radio would go if you got the aftermarket radio, added that later, or got one of the higher end limited edition with that already installed. We now have weather sealing around all of our storage compartments, which is super nice to have, and will help keep water out. I'm sure it's the same in the glove box. It is. You got a nice rubber strip around here that's going to help keep things super dry. And assembled in the USA. You can't beat that. Just like the current Wolverines, you do still have your drain plugs here in the floor that simply uses the same blanks that your rocker switch blanks are. So if you ever happen to lose those, you can just throw one of those in there. So if you put switches in here, light bars, make sure you hold on to these because you may need one later on if you use those. All right, let's step over here into the passenger side now. One thing I've noticed is this guy sits noticeably higher due to the fact that it is a little wider. We're again at 64 inches wheel to wheel with these guys compared to around 59-60 inches with the current Wolverines. And we have bigger tires. These 2-seat Rmax do come standard with 30. You guys, you know all the specs already. If you're watching this, you've probably been watching a ton of videos in the past already, so you know most of the specs. Passenger seat just as comfy, just as roomy. You do have, of course, a little more leg room here because your seat sits back a little farther. It is not adjustable like the driver's seat, but that's no big deal. And of course you don't have pedals, so you're able to stretch out here a little bit farther. And one thing I'm really pleased to see that I would say Yamaha maybe took a little note from Honda and the Talon on this is you no longer have that big old bar where you got to remove the pegs, adjust it, try to line up the holes, put the pegs in. Like the Talon, this has a simple, you push a lever, and this has an endless amount of adjustment. You can put it anywhere you want and it'll hold. There is a little bit of, there must be teeth in there because you can feel them ratchet, so I guess it's not an endless, but there is a bunch of teeth in there I can feel, and you guys can hear it snapping in. So it can go from that being the whole way in to the whole way out. So it'll fit a whole range of different sized riders. So yeah, overall super impressed with these guys. I think Yamaha addressed all the issues that the current generation Wolverine X2 and X4 had. They listened to what people had to say, they corrected it, and made it better. Of course, they've added more power, which everybody wants more power. Now, unfortunately, it's not a demo unit, they're not demoing it, so I am not allowed to drive it, but I did bring the Draggy, so maybe we can talk one of the techs or one of the sales guys in here. I think we have enough room here. We can hook up the Draggy and try to get a quick little 0 to 30 time. Now it's not going to be level because this slopes upward, but still we can see what this guy would do. I was hoping they'd have an X4 we could do this on since I have the Draggy times for the X4. But if we could get a Draggy time with this Rmax 2, that would be absolutely awesome. All right guys, it's happening. Morgan, the salesman here that's been helping me today, is gonna drive the Wolverine for us so we can hook the Draggy up and we're gonna get a 0 to 30 time. I think we got enough room here, as quick as this guy should be. Well, let's get some numbers. All right, again guys, we are kind of going on the uphill slope here, so it's not like we're gonna be level, but still this is gonna give us a good idea how this guy's gonna perform, especially when compared to my X4. And my X4 stock, if you guys remember, got somewhere around a 3.7 0 to 30. With the Hunterworks sheave, we got around a 3.6. I have yet to get you guys the JBS numbers, but it's coming real soon. So let's see what this Yamaha Wolverine Rmax 1000 2-seater will do for 0 to 30. We should have just enough room here to kick it off. So we're gonna leave it in Morgan's hands. He's gonna rip on this for us. We'll see what she can do. Just gonna have to warm up. She's got that limiter. He's at 30 already. It's some warm-up runs. Okay, there we did better. We got down to 3.5. So that overstocked X4 current generation with the 3.7, and you're on a cold motor, cold belt. So a little heat, a little more braking, I think this thing's going to be pretty quick. I bet you we'll be down 3.2, even probably closer to the low 3 seconds, like 3 even. So
four-wheel drive would definitely help too.
Four-wheel drive would help. We're only doing two-wheel drive. Yep. So I'd say, guys, overall, this is going to be quite a performance machine, and it's definitely going to go after that Polaris General. All right, so big shout out here to Miller's Motorsports, Morgan, for helping me out today, allowing me to check this beast out. If you guys are around the Lemont Furnace area and want to buy a Yamaha Polaris, these are definitely the guys to come to see. This is where I bought my X4, so I'm not just recommending them because they let me film. I'm recommending them because I bought my machine here myself. They're a great bunch of guys to work with. So, all right, so now that I've had time to kind of stew over the machine a little bit on my way home here, let's point out a couple things. First thing, I think the base model is going to be very appealing to a lot of people. And I say this because even though it doesn't come with a lot of the features the XTR and the Limited does, it's already set up that you can add those. Case in point, the mode select switch that goes from sport to trail to crawl. The base does not have that switch. However, it's already programmed for it. So all you have to do is buy the switch, install it, plug it in, and you now have that feature as well. Same with the Adventure Pro. Everything's there for it to be plug and play. Same for the sound system. Everything is already there. It's already integrated. You just don't have that initial cost of buying it right out of the gate. Overall impression of the fit and finish of that machine is absolutely excellent. I would expect nothing less from Yamaha. And that is probably the main reason it is now on top of my list and has bumped the Talon out of the running. Now, yes, technically the Rmax 1000 is not a sport machine. It is still considered a recreational vehicle, and the Talon is still considered a pure sport. And I have yet to drive either one real world. So my mind could change, but going on fit and finish, the Wolverine, the new Rmax 1000 is just so polished, we'll put it that way. The fit and finish is excellent. I know the Talon has issues with so many gaps, so many openings that mud and dirt and dust can get through. The Rmax just seems so well tight, so well sealed, and there's not any real world testing out yet to determine this for sure, but it just seems like it's going to be better keeping the elements out. Now, yes, I do have to say I was disappointed in the 0 to 30 time. I was expecting a little faster than that. We were on par with my Wolverine X4 with the sheave. However, keep in mind that this was a cold engine. There was no way we were up to operating temperature. Cold belts, and that thing barely had a mile on it. So I am guessing that we had 3.5, I believe, was our best 0 to 30 run. Once it's warmed up, once the break-in's done, we are going to see right around a 3-second 0 to 30 time. And that is a pretty good jump from my X4. Also keep in mind, with that 0 to 30 time, the new Rmaxes are built a lot tougher, and they do weigh a lot more. My X4 weighs in at, I think they're around 1,600 pounds. And I do believe the XTR Unlimited Rmax, they're pushing 2,000 pounds, so they are a bit heavier. I'm sure the same applies for the Rmax 2-seater as well. And I know people have mixed feelings about the looks. I love the looks, and especially getting to see it in person, I absolutely love it even more. Now, like I mentioned there when I was walking around it, I would have rather seen the lights kind of switched around the other way, because I'm afraid with the main headlights being as low as they are, they're still going to get covered in mud awful quick for you mud guys. And I really like what they did with the roll cages. They're not super tall, they're not over the top, way ridiculous. They look sharp. Especially the pictures of the Rmax 4 I've seen, where instead of just being a straight slope up, it slopes up and then levels off for the back passengers. That is a big improvement over the X4 roll cage. So the big question, should you sell your current Wolverine X2, X4 and run out and order a new Rmax 1000 2-seater or 4-seater? Well, Well, first I'll say this. If you're a big and tall guy, a broad guy, you will definitely appreciate the Rmax over the X2, X4, and it may be enough to make you say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and trade up. If you are a guy that currently uses your Wolverine for a trail buggy, you're probably not going to need the Rmax. Yes, it's a big improvement pretty much in every area, but it's also a bigger, heavier machine, and the current Wolverines are not lacking in power enough to where you will probably warrant going out and trading up for one. Now, if you were thinking of buying a current Wolverine X2, X4, but have yet to do so and are now looking at the new Rmax, then I would say it's probably going to be worth it to go ahead and buy the Rmax. I'll just be straight up with you. It's that much better of a machine, because it already does what the X2 and the X4 does well, and it improves on all the flaws of the X2 and X4. So am I going to head home, scrub up the old X4 and put her up on Facebook Marketplace for sale? I don't think so. First off, I have yet to see the new Rmax 4s, so I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. Although it's safe to say if it's as improved as the Rmax 2-seater is, then it's going to be the better of the two machines. For being a family hauler, I am perfectly fine with my X4 right now. Plus, I have a lot more stuff I want to do to my X4 before I'm ready to get rid of the old girl, or new girl. I guess it's not that old, it's only a couple years old. So, that's my thoughts now that I've had some time to stew. Are they an improvement over the current Wolverines? Simply put, yes they are in every way. Is it enough to make you go sell your X2, your X4s, and buy one? Simply put, probably not, unless you are looking for that higher top end speed, that little extra room, or you simply have to have the latest and greatest side by side. Either way, Yamaha did an absolute amazing job with the new Rmax. And I think the thing that impressed me most with it is that they listened to all our consumers. They heard our complaints about the X2, X4s, they corrected them, they improved on them, and they simply refined the Wolverine into a much, much better machine. So make sure you guys let me know in the comments below if you're considering buying a Rmax 1000. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my take on the new machine. I hope you found it helpful. I hope I was able to show you guys a couple things you had yet to see in any of the other videos that are out there right now. And until next time, keep on riding.